Good evening and welcome to the Bhagavatam. Today we have a very fascinating story. This is the Aila Gita, part of the Uddhava Gita. So, this is a conversation between Sri Krishna, the Supreme Godhead, and his dear friend Uddhava. And we've titled this, When Lust Hijacks the Mind and How Devotion Heals It. Dear friends, welcome back. Tonight we're entering one of those Bhagavatam chapters that will hit you right between the eyes. And if you've ever wondered why even smart, spiritual, successful people do the dumbest things, then when they're infatuated or lusty, this chapter will explain it with tremendous precision. And it does it through a story that is painfully relatable, even though it happened thousands of years ago. So this is from Canto 11, chapter number 26. Krishna's telling us a very powerful cautionary tale. And he's telling this to his friend Uddhava. And he sets the stage. He says the most dangerous illusion is that this human body is a golden ticket. It's the one life in which we actually get to know the Supreme Being, Sri Krishna, who is the source of all ananda or pleasure. Think about it. What is it we all want? We want love. We want happiness. We want peace. We want to live forever and be young forever. He, Krishna, is the source of all of that. He is the supreme soul of all existence and resides within the heart of every living being. And so he wants to caution us through his friend Uddhava. And he's telling him this story now. Even what he's trying to tell him is that even spiritually advanced people who are detached, people who are saintly, people who are evolved, can fall down from their elevation, from their spiritual progress, if they get careless with the people that they associate with, particularly when it comes to sexual attraction. In the third text, he says one should never associate with materialists or those dedicated to gratifying their genitals and bellies. By following them, one falls into the deepest pit of darkness, just like a blind man who follows another blind man. Now, some of you might think this is crazy because our society teaches us that to enjoy our senses, to possess everything in the world, to enjoy sex as much as we can, this is our birthright. To enjoy good foods, to enjoy great pleasures. This is what life is all about. But the Vedas tell us no. They say this human form of life is extremely rare. There are many different kinds of life forms. The Vedas tell us there are 8,400,000 different kinds of species. That includes the insects, the birds, the animals, and the humans, and even the aliens. So amidst all of them, the human form of life is extremely rare. We do not get to have this form of life all the time, but because it gives us the intellect by which we can ask questions. It's not about believing things, it's about asking questions. And one who asks questions can advance on the spiritual path. But one who wants to advance on the spiritual path must know what advancing looks like and what regressing looks like. If we simply follow the ways of animals, that is, we eat, sleep, have sex, and protect ourselves, then how are we different from animals? If the goal of life is spiritual growth and advancement, then what does it take to get there? If the goal of life is to love God, then what does it take to get there? It's not that, things are just going to be given to you because you surrender to somebody or you believe in somebody, and that's a nice little fairy tale. But has very little reality, because reality is seen by results, not by beliefs. Reality is seen by how we transform our heart, our mind, our intellect, and even our ego. How we transform is far more important than what we believe. If believing leads us to transforming, wonderful. But if not, then there's no question of spiritual growth. So what Krishna is pointing out here is that those who seek to gratify their senses, their genitals, their bellies, or engage in materialistic activity, tend to fall into the deep pit of darkness. And others follow them, just like one blind person leading the other. He says, you and I know this we all know this firsthand. People lose their careers over affairs. Teenagers lose focus because of addiction to drugs, alcohol, or even their phones. Marriages collapse because someone follows their heart, which really means they followed their hormones or their senses or their lust or their desires. All kinds of things happen when we just follow the ways of lust. Krishna says that lust is the quickest way to spiritual amnesia. So to drive this lesson home, he tells Uddhava an intense story, the downfall and awakening of King Pururava, who was also known as Aila. He was a mighty emperor, and he became so blinded by lust that he was like a deer hypnotized by headlights. Pururava was handsome, powerful, cultured, wealthy, a king among kings. Now, he meets with Urvashi. Urvashi is a apsara. And she was so beautiful. She was a heavenly dancer from the heavenly planets. She was so goddess-like. She's been mentioned in the Rig Veda as the most beautiful apsara. Apsaras were the dancing girls in the heavenly planets. She's also mentioned extensively in the Rig Veda, the Mahabharata, Ramayana, Harivamsha, Devi Bhagavat Puran, Vishnu Puran, Vayu Puran, Matsya, and Skanda Puran. So she's mentioned in a lot of places throughout the Vedas. Why? Because she was so stunning. And there's more. So there is this whole narrative about how she came about. There were the great sages, Nara and Narayan, who were performing penances, right, in order to please the creator Brahma. So Indra decides to test Nara and Narayan Rishi in their meditations. And he creates multiple illusions. Indra is the king of heaven, not God. He's not God, but he's the king of the heavenly planets. The Vedas talk about how there are Svargalok, the heavenly planets, and then there are hellish planets. Again, that's not hell like the Abrahamic religions talk about, but they are places of greater suffering. The heavenly planets are places of greater pleasure, and the earth is in the middle. So the king of the heavenly planets, Indra, decides to test Nara and Narayan, and he creates multiple illusions to break their penance. And all his tricks fail. Finally, he orders the apsaras of his court to come and seduce them. This included Ramba, Menaka, Tilotama. And he asked them to go and distract Nara Narayan. So these apsaras, these dancing girls, they are accompanied by the god of love, Kamadev, and his consort, Rati. And then they come to where Nara and Narayan are meditating and try to deviate them from their penance. However, the sages remain unaffected by this and decide to break the pride of the apsaras. At this point, Narayan, who is an incarnation of Vishnu, of the Supreme Godhead, slaps his thigh, and from his thigh emerges most incredible Urvashi. Her beauty leaves the apsaras from Indralok matchless, and they become ashamed of their act. Nara Narayan assure Indra that they would not take his throne, because Indra was actually afraid. He was afraid. He's a powerful position. He's the king of the heavenly planets, and he's afraid that Nara and Narayan are doing this incredible tapasya, these meditations, these great austerities, and that they'll become so powerful and they'll take over his throne. All rulers fear that someone's going to take their power away from them. And so that's why he had created this whole distraction to break their meditations. Anyways, what Nara and Narayan tell Indra is that they will send Urvashi to Swarga, heavenly planets, and there Indra gives her a place of pride in his court. Now, coming back to our original story, there was this king called Pururava. And he was very handsome, very powerful, very cultured, wealthy, a king among kings. And he meets Urvashi, and he falls in love with her. And they live together for many years and indulge every desire of his senses. The king admits, alas, just see the extent of my delusion. This is later. He laments later on. We'll get to that. The goddess was embracing me and held my neck in her grip. Although for many years Pururava enjoyed sexual pleasure with Urvashi in the evening hours, still he was not satisfied by such insignificant enjoyment. You see, the problem with sensual enjoyment is there is no limit to it. There is no cessation. There is no satisfaction. You always want more and more and more. It's like a person who is in the desert seeking water and sees a mirage and tries to drink from that mirage, but he's never satisfied because it's not real water. It's just an illusion of water. Similarly, the enjoyment we get from our senses can never satisfy us. And you say, what nonsense? It feels so good. Yes, it feels good to the body. It feels good for a moment, maybe even a few moments. But it does not touch the soul. The soul is spirit, and spirit cannot be satisfied by matter. No amount of matter can satisfy the soul. Only spirit can satisfy spirit. Only that which is spiritual can satisfy the spirit, that which we are. We are Satchit Ananda. We are eternal, full of knowledge and full of bliss. That's the nature of our soul. And only things that are of that resonance, of that vibration, can actually satisfy us. That is why the things of this world, no matter how much we have, whether you're a multi-billionaire, whether you have a harem of 1,000 beautiful women, whether you have the most wonderful men, whatever it is you're drawn to, you have the best of cars and houses and billions of dollars, still you're never satisfied. You're always stressed, you're always anxious, you're always fearful. There is no peace. In fact, the more you have, the more you worry about how to preserve it. If you have a beautiful man or a woman, you're worried about some other person trying to take that person away from you. If you have a lot of money, you're worried about the market going up and down and your money getting stolen or lost or, in some way. There's always stress. It never goes away. So this king, Pururava, his mind was so attracted to Urvashi. His heart was so polluted by lust that he did not notice how the nights were coming and going and his life was passing. Imagine being so absorbed in someone that days disappear, weeks blur, years vanish. Your spiritual practice, gone. Your intelligence, gone. Your dignity, gone. This is how the Bhagavatam describes the psychology of lust. It distorts the time. It hijacks the mind. It blinds the intelligence. Now, we're not talking about love. Real love, pure love, elevates. That's divine love. We're talking about insatiable lust, infatuation, sexual addiction. Which many people suffer from in this day and age. Modern neuroscience describes it perfectly. When a person is infatuated, the same parts of the brain light up when someone takes cocaine. Pururava, the king, was basically on a drug. And then one day, as such stories always go, Urvashi left. And the mighty emperor collapsed. He started saying when she was leaving, even though he was naked, he ran after her, just like a madman, and called out in great distress, "Oh, my wife, oh, please stop." But Urvashi walked away. In his lamentation and regret, King Pururava said with brutal honesty, "Although I am supposed to be a mighty emperor, the crown jewel of all kings on this earth, just see my bewilderment, how it has rendered me a toy animal in the hands of women. Where was my so-called great influence, power, and sovereignty? Just like an ass, a donkey, being kicked in the face by the she-donkey, I ran after that woman who had already given me up." He felt the helplessness caused by lust, which can make anyone, man or woman, feel like a jackass being kicked by its mate. He continued, being raw and honest. He said, that woman cheated me so much that I did not even see the rising or setting of the sun. Alas, for so many years I passed my days in vain. What is the use of a big education or the practice of austerities and renunciation if after all that one's mind is stolen by lust? To hell with me. I am such a fool that I didn't even know what was good for me. Notice he's not really blaming her. He's really realizing his own foolishness. He's recognizing his own bewilderment. He's recognizing how he had lost himself. And this is very important, this paschatap or anutap, the awareness of our own folly, the repentance of our mistakes. And he says, even after I had served the so-called nectar of the lips of Urvashi for so many years, my lusty desires kept rising again and again, just like a fire that can never be extinguished by putting ghee into it. So it is compared in the Vedas that trying to satisfy lust is like putting ghee or oil or gasoline into a fire. It only becomes bigger. It doesn't get smaller. It doesn't become less. Then he began to own his own mistake more completely. He says, how can I blame her for my trouble when I myself am ignorant of my real spiritual nature? I did not control my senses. And this repentance is the beginning of spiritual wisdom. And the Bhagavatam points out, look at how illusion makes fools of all of us. This illusion, this maya, this world, makes a fool of all of us. It makes us think that that which is lust is love. It makes us think that that which is wealth makes us a better person. It doesn't. People may look up to you because you've got so much money, or because you're famous, or because you're an actor or a musician or whatever else you might be. But in reality, you're nothing. You will leave all that behind. You'll leave the very body you have behind. It will get old. It will fade. Your talents will go. And then in time, you will leave this world with nothing. What did you gain? What was the point? Pururava begins to sober up. He realizes he wasted years of his human life. For what? A pleasure that never satisfied him. A fire that kept burning no matter how much he indulged in it. This is not self-hatred, it is self-honesty. The moment every addict has when they stare in the mirror and finally tell the truth. Then he says something profoundly spiritual. I can't blame her. The fault is mine. I did not control my senses. And when we take ownership and responsibility like that, that's the turning point. But we stop blaming others or things that are external. That's when we start making progress in our life. But as long as we're blaming, we're just going into this victim consciousness. We're just digging ourselves deeper into a hole. And we lose our power. When we take responsibility and recognize where it was our doing, we regain our power, the power to make change, the power to alter our life. Because otherwise you can go on and on and on. You can blame technology, you can blame the person who ghosted you, you can blame your ex, your hormones, the circumstances, or even the universe. And as long as you do, there's not going to be any change in your situation. You'll just continue in the same rut. You'll keep finding more and more of the same. And you'll keep on saying, see, I knew it. It was the fault of XYZ. All men are like this, all women are like that. And you'll keep on blaming others. But Pururava, the king, realized, I saw a rope and assumed it was a snake. In other words, I misinterpreted pleasure as happiness. Now Pururava reflects, what is this body anyway? It is filthy. It's full of bad odors. I was attracted by the fragrance and beauty of a woman's body. But what are these so-called attractive features? They are simply a false covering created by illusion. Now, before you laugh and think this is weird, remember one thing. People today literally ruin their lives for a six-pack or billions of dollars that go into makeup and fillers and plastic surgery and diet culture and influencer aesthetics. But the illusion is all we're pandering to. Uddhava is not saying that beauty is evil. He's saying don't be hypnotized by it. Modern psychology calls this cognitive distortion. Neuroscience calls it reward projection. Spirituality calls it Maya Shakti, the power, the influence of illusion upon us to bewilder our minds. That's why they call it makeup. It's you're making up, covering up, trying to create an illusion. As it is, there is so much of illusion. The attraction that we have for the opposite sex or the same sex, whatever you're into, the attraction we have for the things of this world is the illusion already. Then we try to dress it up and make it even more enticing. Then the Bhagavatam drives sort of a knockout punch to Maya, the illusion. The king says, one can never decide whose property the body actually is. Whose body is this, by the way? Does it belong to my parents, through whom I came? Does it belong to me? Does it belong to my partner? Does it belong to my country? Does it belong to my religion? Whose property is this body? Who created it? Where did it come from? These are deep questions we need to ponder. The truth is, our parents just had sex and we came through 9 months later. They didn't make us. They say, no, I made you. But you didn't. You didn't make your child. Your child came through you. But no, you didn't make your child. Right? It just happened. You just had sex. The child started forming within the body, how the nose would be and what gender it would be. None of that was your choice. Sure, you can say we can have selection, we can kill some babies and keep some others. Well, that's not, you're still not making the baby. So the king is saying now, in his realization is going deeper and deeper and deeper, more and more philosophical. One can never decide whose property the body actually is. Although one can never definitely ascertain the proprietor of the body, still one becomes most attached to it. He then says, even one who theoretically understands the actual nature of the body should never associate with women or with men attached to other women or men. After all, the contact of the senses with their objects inevitably agitates the mind. So the idea is not that women are bad, it's not that men are bad, but it's that we become agitated, our minds become agitated in the company of the sex that we are attracted to. So if you are interested in spiritual development, then one of the key elements of spiritual development is to have a peaceful mind. And if your mind is going to be agitated by something, as it might be agitated by drinking something or by eating certain foods or by watching certain films or videos or whatever it might be, if it's going to agitate your mind, then it is coming in the way of your spiritual progress. He then explains the psychology behind this. He says the mind is disturbed by that which is seen or heard. So when you see something or hear something, that will then start to play on your mind. Those are sanskars, those are impressions being formed on your mind. They go into your subconscious. They start then generating your desires. He says, therefore, the mind of one who restricts the senses, who restricts them, will automatically be checked and become pacified. Think about it. When you fall in love with someone or marry someone, you stop seeing all other persons who could be potential partners. You stop associating with them, dating them, having sex with them, whatever else it is. And to do that, you need to be able to curb your senses. You can't be sitting there and ogling someone while you're with your partner, your lover, your beloved, your wife. You cannot, or husband, you cannot be doing the same things you did when you were single. So you learn even through the process of relationship or marriage how to curb your senses. In the same way, there are so many foods that we need to curb in our senses, because there are so many foods. Gradually we start to realize, oh, sugar is not good for me. Gosh, I need to stop this. Or this other food is not good for me. Or this other food is contaminated by XYZ chemicals or whatever else they might be putting in it. And I need to curb my senses. I need to not have that anymore. But at some point you didn't know and you kept having it. But at later point you realize, oh, this kind of candy or ice cream or this or that isn't good for me. So you learn to, as you mature, you learn to restrict your senses, right? Why? Because if you, unrestricted senses will lead to unrestricted desires, and you will just want this and I want that and I want that and I want the other thing, and you go crazy. But if you want to focus in on your career, on your path, on something important to your family, then you need to restrain your senses. And so it is with spirituality. If you want to advance in spirituality, it is vital to restrict your senses. Some people think that just indulging your senses is spirituality. And I challenge any of one of those people, because the truth is they have no clue what spirituality is. If spirituality means self-realization, they will not realize the self. Their mind will never be quiet enough because their senses are constantly agitating their mind. How can the mind become quiet? How can it become peaceful? And how can they access the self? And if one wants to be God-realized, well, then the same thing applies here. You cannot attain love of God if you're in love with the world. You have to make your choices. Just like when you fall in love with a particular person, then you have to give up falling in love with every other person. So if you want to fall in love with God, then you got to give up the world, everything else that you loved before, and focus your mind, because otherwise you're going to go nowhere. You'll be 1 foot here, 1 foot there, 1 foot in the world, 1 foot with God, 1 foot in your spirituality, 1 foot in the world, never quite making any progress. So therefore he says, the mind of one who restricts the senses will automatically be checked and become pacified. Even philosophers, saintly persons, and gurus burn if they play too close to the fire. Even those who know philosophy can fall if they stay around sense objects too long. Even learned people get swept away if they flirt with temptation. And isn't that the truth? It doesn't matter how wise you are. If you sleep next to a box of candy, donuts, chocolate, your diet is doomed. If your phone pings or rings at night, your sleep will be disturbed. If you hang out with people obsessed with pleasure, you will end up imitating them or hanging out with them. This is simply how the mind works. Then Krishna explains, mind stops being disturbed by what it does not hear or see. So if we restrict our senses, like he gives the example of a tortoise going within its shell, shutting down the external awareness of things and becoming deeply immersed in the self. Once you are deeply immersed in the self and in God, then you can be out in the world. It will not affect you. And even then you need to keep some restraint. Otherwise you'll again fall down. And neuroscience tells us the same thing. Remove sensory triggers. When you do that, the brain rewires. That is why monks live in ashrams. That is why yogis practice self-restraint. That is why therapists will tell teenagers or anyone who's got anxiety or problems to remove certain apps from their phones or spend less time with those phones. But the Bhagavatam was saying this 5,000 years ago. So after singing this brutally honest song, the Aila Gita it's called, Pururava's illusions evaporated. He gave up the position he had achieved in the planet of Urvashi, and his illusion was cleansed away by transcendental knowledge. He understood the Supreme Lord, Sri Krishna, to be the Supreme Soul within his heart. And at last he achieved peace. So this is the path. We have to let go the external to find the internal. We have to let go the sensual to find that divine love, that higher purpose. The king regained clarity. He saw Krishna within his heart and finally walked away from the planet of Urvashi itself. This is huge. He went from, I can't live without her, to, I don't need any of this. I'm free. He achieved genuine spiritual wisdom and freedom. And that is what progress looks like. Finally, he said, thus losing his desire to be on the same planet as Urvashi, King Pururava wandered the earth free of material association, completely satisfied within the self. The arc was complete. From his fall, his downfall, his realization, his recovery, and then his liberation. He didn't just recover, he transcended. Now Krishna takes from this story a series of lessons that he then brings to Uddhava. Krishna says, an intelligent person should therefore reject all bad association, it means worldly association, and instead take up the association of saintly devotees, whose words cut off the excessive attachment of one's mind. The words of saintly people cut off the excessive attachment we have with our mind. See, we believe our mind. We believe that because our mind says something, therefore it is true. We believe whatever our mind tells us. And this can be at one extreme, like in schizophrenia or delusion or paranoia. And on the other extent, it can be where we're just chasing our senses and we're just doing whatever it is our mind is telling us. In fact, we are slaves of our mind. So if you want to break the chains of the slavery that bind you to the mind, then one must associate with saintly persons. Because in their association, we are able to cut off this excessive attachment to our mind. Krishna says, my devotees fix their minds on me. See, the mind has to go somewhere. You can't say, no, I'll just focus it within myself. Sure. But within yourself is Krishna, is the Paramatma, is the Supreme Lord. He is within you, he is all around you, and he exists in the spiritual world as well. And he comes to this earth from time to time in an avatar, in various avatars. So my devotees fix their minds on me. They are peaceful, endowed with equal vision. This is very important. And you say, what are the symptoms of a spiritually advanced person? Number one, they're peaceful. That means they're not subject to lust, anger, or greed. They're endowed with equal vision, means they have equanimity. They have samadrishti. That means they see everything and everyone as the same. Whether you give them gold or you give them dirt, it's the same. Whether you're poor or you're rich, it's the same. You're man or you're woman, it's the same. Equal vision. And they are free from possessiveness, that anything is mine. They have no sense of anything is mine. Nothing is mine. And they're free from any kind of egoic stuff and from duality and from greed. I, me, and mine. They're free of that. They're free of the duality of this is good, this is bad, this is right, this is wrong. There's no judgment, therefore. And there is no greed of possessiveness. These are the symptoms, some of the symptoms of a highly advanced person. In the association of such saintly devotees, there is constant discussion of me, Krishna is saying, of the Supreme Godhead, Shri Krishna. And those who partake in hearing my glories are purified. Whoever hears, chants, and respectfully takes to heart these topics about me becomes faithfully dedicated to me and thus achieves bhakti, my devotional service. What more remains to be accomplished for the perfect devotee after having achieved devotional service unto me? Means there is nothing further. This is the highest goal of life. That love of God, that devotional service to the Supreme Godhead. Just as cold, fear, and darkness are eradicated for one who approaches fire, so dullness, fear, and ignorance are destroyed for one serving devotees. Krishna says that one who says he is my devotee is not my devotee, but one who is the servant of my devotees, one who serves my devotees, one who loves my devotees. That is my devotee. He does not exist. The Supreme Godhead does not exist in a vacuum. He exists with all of us, all those who love him. And if you don't love his loved ones, then you can't come to him. I'm sorry, it doesn't work that way. So he's saying, just as when you come to a fire, then cold vanishes because it's warm. Fear vanishes because now there's light. And darkness vanishes because you can see things now. But when you're in the dark, you can't see anything. So just as cold, fear, and darkness are eradicated for one who approaches fire, so dullness, fear, and ignorance are destroyed for one who is serving the devotees. The devotees of the Supreme Lord are just like a strong boat that comes to rescue persons who are drowning. Krishna says, my devotees are the only refuge for persons fearful of falling into a miserable condition of life. My devotees bestow divine eyes. They are the real worshipable deities and the real family, and ultimately they are none different from me. Now, let's go over these points he's made so that we can understand them more clearly. Number one, he's saying, reject bad association. Right? That's the association of worldly minded people. Then, seek out saintly devotees who are peaceful, equanimous, and free from greed and false ego. And he says that wherever devotees gather, they discuss him. So these are the first few symptoms that he's talking about. These are the things we need to look for. Then he goes on to say that hearing their words purifies the heart. Whose words? Pure devotees, devotees of Krishna, devotees of the Supreme Lord. Then he points out that devotional service or bhakti is the greatest treasure of all. The greatest treasure of all. And that serving devotees removes darkness, fear, and ignorance. And then he talks about how devotees are like a boat rescuing the drowning souls in this world. Then he says the devotees are the true shelter for those who do not wish to fall down into the pool of material existence. And finally, he says devotees of Krishna act like the sun, giving divine eyes to others. I have seen this to be true. I know this to be true. And I know that this is the most important piece. Who we associate with makes all the difference to who we become and where we land in life. Krishna is not being subtle here. He's saying if you want to be free of lust, you need a spiritual tribe, a community, devotees, teachers, mentors, sangha. Why? Because willpower is not enough. Knowledge is not enough. Even renunciation is not enough. But the association of pure-hearted devotees, that changes everything. Devotees help you reshape your desires. They rewire your priorities. They re-educate your senses. They awaken your spiritual intelligence. They give you divine eyes to see what you couldn't see before. They are truly worshipable and they are one's true family. Then Krishna ends with this: my devotees are none different from me. They carry my light. They carry my protection. They carry my grace. This is beautifully said. Very beautifully said. So practical applications would be, number one, choose your association carefully. If you surround yourself with people glued to pleasure, you'll get hijacked from your spiritual purpose. If you surround yourself with people who are attached to Krishna, then you will rise and elevate yourself and transcend. The second thing to remember, protect your senses. The mind reacts to what the senses feast on. Whatever you put into whatever comes in is what's going to come out. Garbage in, garbage out. So choose your inputs the way you choose your diet. Practice honest self-reflection. Like the King Pururava, admit your illusions. Lust loses power when exposed. Engage in bhakti, in devotional service. Bhakti gives us a deeper, fuller pleasure. And when the heart is full, the cravings die down. Hear about Krishna regularly. Hearing is medicine. Hearing awakens. Hearing redirects us. And seek saintly company, because everyone needs someone wiser to pull them upward. Here we can see in one line the essence of this whole teaching. Pururava's fall and recovery teaches us the simple spiritual truth. When lust hijacks the mind, we lose everything. But when devotion enters the heart, we get everything back. And that, my friends, is the Aila Gita. Thank you for being here tonight. Let's carry these teachings with us, apply them in our lives, and continue walking together on this beautiful path of loving devotion. Hare Krishna. Hari Bol. See you next week. I'm here every Tuesday at 8 p.m. Eastern, which is 5 p.m. Pacific on Tuesdays, and on Wednesdays in India. You'll see me on Wednesdays. You're listening from India, and I'll be there at, let's see, what's the time there? I don't know. I don't ever remember this, but around 6:30 these days. It'll change once the daylight saving time changes. Okay, see you next week. Hare Krishna.